welcome to Kickstart Your Life with life-changing events. Today, as usual, I have somebody really interesting with a unique life story to share with you, dear listener, because we would like to inspire you and to make sure you have some great tips and tricks and tools how to live your life in a better way. You'll be not surprised to hear that actually today I have somebody unique. Listen to who this man is. Oh, actually, I gave you the clue. It's a man, right? Okay, you can live with that. Bear with me. So, Adrian is a top-class coach who I started working with 6 months ago, and is the best investment I've ever made. I live an intense, fast-paced life, and I have had major success and then hit a huge brick wall I just didn't know how to overcome. Adrian has helped me absolutely smash through that wall, and I know he'll be my coach for a very long time. This testimonial was left by an award-winning film producer and professional actor on Channel 4. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Adrian Hales, who is a coach for high achievers who actually done everything in life and yet still feel unfulfilled. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Olga. It's a pleasure, obviously, to be working with you and discussing this evening around, the topics and the elements that both inspire us as well. So I'm looking forward to spending the evening talking about those things. Thanks for having me.
Exciting. So Adrian, I'm really grateful you actually joined the podcast, because I know that many people are looking for clues. They're looking for tools and tricks on how to succeed in their lives. And who, if not you, actually can share some things, what did you do in life? But before that, what, I'm really interested about is actually what made you who you are? And the reason I'm asking, because I came across so many people who did become someone only after something major happened to them. And why I would like to dig that out of you, because I know many people are stuck at the minute. They either are having that, or maybe physical problems with their body. Maybe they experience some real challenges and they think this is the rock bottom. And only by sharing stories like many people have, including you, we can help them. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds really good. And I think the main thing that really gets people out of the rock bottom and gets people to grow and change in life is what often people have is a purpose that is bigger than themselves. So some type of mission which serves them, which serves humanity, which is actually bigger than themselves. And you tend to find that people get pulled towards that purpose rather than pushed by it.
There we go. I love it. I love the fact you mentioned that. That's right. So what was your purpose?
So it's an interesting question. It's something that never stops. I think whenever you are doing what you're doing and you have passion for your work, you're always asking, who am I? What am I here to do? What is my purpose? But my main purpose is to inspire transformation and to help people and lead people that are unhappy or unfulfilled, and help them reconnect with that purpose, motivation, and confidence, so they have the courage to walk their path to the next level. If I look back at my life, I never really understood what the purpose was until I remember and recall a story with my granddad.
Oh, what was it?
Yeah, and what he used to do is we used to go on these long walks, and my granddad was a very resilient man. He was like very stoic, it's kind of like stoic philosophy, but very, very resilient man and very successful. And he used to walk me across the fields when I was a young child and off the beaten track. And we used to walk in the long grass for some time, and then he used to stop and get me to turn around and say, look, you've created your own path there. Make sure you do that in life, because that's what's going to make all the difference. And that's how the path methodology that's why the path methodology was created, which is the first, interestingly enough, Olga, you said around purpose, how do you find your purpose? And the most important thing is to start with the purpose and start and really dig deep and find that. And I think your purpose is always changing. get to the next level, or you change your business, you change direction, your purpose and value changes. So it always changes. But I would always say to people, if they're looking for their purpose, is, you know, a great question to ask. And I'm sure you ask some great questions, Olga, as well. But a great question to ask is, if money was no object and you woke up tomorrow with all the money in the world, what would you spend the rest of your life doing? And then that usually gives you a good indication of where your purpose is or could be.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. And I'm not sure if you get the same question as I get, and I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do, because obviously you're so passionate about what you do. But when people ask me, Olga, what would you do if not coaching and speaking? And I said, well, nothing else. That's all what I can do. And I said, no, but when you will retire, what else would you like to do? And I'm like, no, but I don't want to ever retire from what I do, because I absolutely love what I do. Because
you have such a passion.
Yes, exactly, because I'm so passionate about this. And same like you, it's all about seeing those results with people. It's just meeting those people, almost like those lost children who will look at you and with those big eyes, and they believe in you and they want you to take them out to where they are and just push them and pull them and just give them that, you know, rocket set off to wherever they want to be. And what can be better than that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that increasing somebody's confidence or motivation, or when you're working with someone in a coaching session that then you find out they've been getting in their own way, or, you know, or they start laughing about their problems. And actually, you know, when someone has a bit of humor around it, actually they realize that, you know, as a coach, something's shifted for them, or something's changed, or a perception is changed. And as you said, Olga, it's about, you know, it's very fulfilling to know that you're doing that for people.
Absolutely. And I love how Tony Robbins says, actually, specifically about laughing situation. He says, if you will laugh about this situation in 5 years, why don't you laugh now? And this is what I learned a while ago. And now whatever happens, and sometimes, as you know, life happens to everyone, even to coaches, always look at the situation thinking, well, what actually will I be laughing about within this situation in 5 years' time? And this what actually always gets me out of the situation. So when you were talking about purpose, and I love this story, what you said about your granddad. I think everybody will wish to have a granddad like that. If not granddad, then father. If not father, then mother. You know, anybody who will actually give this beautiful metaphor. It's beautiful metaphor. It helps you. It helps your clients, I'm sure. And yet, I don't think so. After he told you this phrase, hey, you have to build your path, you have to find your purpose, you were like, ta-da, now I know exactly what I want to do. How did you end up where you are now? Give me those details.
Yeah, so when I was a small boy, I came out of school with no qualifications, and that story really doesn't define who I am. But at school there was this insatiable desire to want to do something in life, to be something, like this motivation. And I found, because I didn't excel too well in the classroom, based on how schooling set up in this country, and, you know, just my hunger to do sport, I didn't pay too much attention in the classroom, and then I decided to do sport. And that was where my motivation came from. So when I came out of school, I had a few choices, really, to go and work in a warehouse, which is obviously nothing wrong with that if that's what people want to do, or go in the army. So I ended up joining the army when I was really young, so probably about 15 and 9 months. I was actually underage, and I ended up staying. They ended up letting me stay from a young age. So I stayed, joined the army, and I did really well because it was all physical. It was all, you know, resilience-based stuff. Did exceptionally well. So that gave me a bit of my purpose, almost like the resilience, the working in teams, the leading, the selfless leadership. So that was a small part of my purpose. Just by doing that, when I reflect back, I look at, okay, so based on coaching now, there is some elements I still keep for the military. And then I got into sport again, so teams, but this time rugby, playing a lot of rugby around the world. And then there were certain elements of that fulfilled me, working in a team, high performance. And then during playing rugby, I worked as a sales director and working in sales. And at that point, I remember really finding a lot of fulfillment out of passing on my knowledge to somebody and seeing somebody else succeed. A little bit like what you said, when people are so curious and open-eyed to learn, and then you pass that knowledge on and then you see them achieve, you see them succeed. It was a little bit like what you were saying earlier. And then something in there was just something changed within me. It was almost like, there's something here, this coaching, this coaching, this giving, this helping people learn. And then I went into learning and development. And then I just really got fascinated with applying coaching models which could create different levels of transformation with somebody, whether that's changing a belief, whether that's increasing confidence, whether that's helping someone overcome a certain fear. And the more I start to learn that, and then the even better results I used to get through coaching, the more fulfilled I felt, and this sense of like fulfillment and joy by doing that for somebody. So then I knew that was my purpose. So really my purpose is parts of the army, parts of rugby, parts of coaching, and then getting into really mastering like the art of transformation in coaching. And then I wanted to be able to co-create with other coaches. So then that led me on to do transformational coaching qualifications for other coaches. So my purpose is a collection of all of those things. And it's really about inspiring transformation in a broad sense. So that's my purpose, and that's how I learned it, through lots of challenges, scuffed knees, successes, failures, blood, sweat and tears, and then out comes the other side is a set of characteristics and skills that you can really help people. So that's the answer.
I love it. I love it. And I love the way how you joined all those dots. How you joined the army, your resilience, your sport and challenges within the sport, how you just join all those all together and you put them nicely and beautifully in a package within your coaching. I think it's really amazing. But you actually said something really interesting, and I'm sure teachers not going to like what they're going to say now. But you said something, I know, but it's like when you're recording something, you think, oh,
I was always naughty at school anyway. I don't mind.
All right, then it's fun. And then it's fun. But you see, I was a good girl, so I can't say anything naughty. Yeah, I was really well behaved.
Don't worry, you won't be in detention.
Yeah, so what you said was really interesting, because in the beginning of this week, I went to a school to be on a panel, and students were asking questions. Pardon?
That's amazing.
Oh, it was a really good experience, actually. I really loved that. And students were having the opportunity to actually ask us questions. So how did we end up where we are now? What was the journey? What was the first job? And so on and so on. And one of the students actually asked a question: do you have to be really good at school and have really good grades and exams to succeed in life? And you should see faces of all panelists. Because it's like, we know, no, you don't have to. And you're a great example. You are one of the greatest examples. And I spoke to so many people already who actually, they were school dropouts, they didn't do well at school. Okay, I can't belong to that category because I did try to do my best at school. Okay, it was a bit different. But still, I do understand so many people who actually were not successful at school, and yet they're really successful at life. But therefore, here it's like almost, where do we find the balance? Do we teach kids, hey, you have to really perform at school, and if you don't, what do we say? Do we say like, don't worry? Or do we say like, hey, sunshine, just, keep trying? Because what's the fine line? What do you think?
I think, so there's that great quote by Albert Einstein. It says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. And if you look at school, there is a certain way of learning and a certain way of teaching, which is, in my opinion, is categorized for a certain, a group of children or students. And actually some of the children there that learn differently, I don't think school fully caters. So the only way I can really have a perspective on this is if I look at how we learn in the military, how we learn in sport, and how, professional rugby and stuff like that. How we learn is by not always having familiarity. So not always knowing what's coming up in the lesson, maybe being thrown in the deep end, getting different challenges that would be not in line what we're used to, pushing outside our comfort zone, and challenges that don't just challenge us physically, that challenge us mentally. So I think in schools it's so important to have variety, and though stuff that's not routine, because I think in routine you get a sense of complacency when there is no routine. Yes, there is a little bit of uncertainty, but then in the uncertainty, you actually learn more in those moments of not knowing what's coming up in certain things. And interestingly enough, because I teach this in coaching, in my coaching workshops, and there's some study done by neuroscience that says that our learning capacity and capability goes up significantly when we teach somebody else something. And there was a study done in France. There was a shortage of teachers back in the Victorian ages, and they got the kids to teach the other children. So I'm a child and I'm teaching you the subject, and we're working in pairs, but I'm teaching you, and then you're teaching me the subject. And the learning went up significantly. But then when the recession came back in France, they went back to normal procedure. But neuroscience has proved that social learning is the way to go. So I think in schools, yes, teachers are important, and though kids should be actually taking lessons and teaching. So
I love that. I think it's a really good idea, because I'm not sure if you heard this phrase, but people say you teach what you need to learn.
Yeah.
Because when you want to teach someone else about a subject, particular thing, or whatever, you do tend to outsource more information, and you do tend to dig deeper and try to understand 100% before you pass on that knowledge to somebody else. So I think the idea is brilliant. And absolutely phenomenal. I think with this idea, we just could go to schools and say, hey, how about just doing mini sessions where kids can teach others what they learned today, even just little mini, like really just bullet points. Give me the bullet point. Actually, now you've made me think, because I have a tendency, when my son comes back from school, I have a tendency to ask him, what did you learn today? And surprising how at the beginning he was saying nothing. Literally just nothing. And I said, well, you can't spend half a day at school learning nothing, because in that case, let's go and put some bricks on the pathways and earn some money. He better go and earn rather just spend time at school learning nothing. You better earn something than learn nothing. And eventually he got to the point where he was able to say, okay, I learned this in Spanish, I learned that in geography, I learned that in English. And actually, I remember when he just started the school, because I came to England without speaking any English language. It was like very basic.
It's amazing.
Well, it's been a long journey. It was like, my name is Olga, and then I have to think about it, what to say next. So when he went to school, I remember I was so hungry to learn from him. He would come back with, those spelling words, and he would have to learn them until next time. I was learning them with him.
That's so cool.
I was so hungry to learn language. So together we would just learn those spellings, we would write those words. So I think what you said there is just absolutely fabulous idea. It's just allow kids to teach others, whether maybe there could be even brothers and sisters at home. Don't have to be kids at school, but just to pass on those new things, what they learn. But maybe there could be actually a really good tip to parents.
So you could say almost say, teach me what you learned today and I'll teach you. And what you find is that when you teach something to somebody, you learn it in multiple ways, and you don't just learn it logically, you embody it. So they're teaching in loads of different elements. So it's definitely, it's a good idea what you just said.
Love it. Wow. You see, and that's why I loved having these conversations, because you always come up with some absolutely amazing ideas.
Yeah,
And
there's a video called Matthew Lieberman. There's a video called Matthew Lieberman Social Learning, and
okay.
the whole video, that's what he studies. Is a neuroscientist which study social learning.
Beautiful. I think what we should do is just definitely to share the link to the video under the
Yeah,
podcast, the information. Let's do that. Yeah. So our listeners
yeah.
can check it out and listen to that and learn more. That's great. No, I think what you just said there is really fascinating. Is actually to allow kids to teach someone else what they just learned at school, and also to try their best really at school, because yes, they might not be the best at school, but it doesn't mean they will be not the best in life. Just like you were
Mm,
not the greatest, but then you found yourself in an army, and then
mm.
you moved on all your skills and everything what you learned in the army into coaching. How fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think those things create us, and they start to craft our character. They start to craft our personality. They start to craft our strategies for success, the strategies for helping other people. And as you know, all those strategies are born out of experience and trial and error and all those kind of things. And I'd be curious to know, like, what was your purpose? What was your kind of road as well to get to where you are?
Oh, that
Because
was
obviously
interesting.
you've gone from the point of, learning the English dialect to now doing like some really kind of inspiring out there videos from that's which I find quite interesting as well.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Well, to be honest, I'm like with you. It was quite a long journey, and what is surprising that since I started doing all these videos, I started getting questions such as, "Olga, I like your social media. Could you coach me on social media?" I'm not social media coach, okay? Or like, "Oh, I love how natural you're on camera. What do you do for that?" And I think, some like in your case, when you join all those dots together and you see how beautiful was the journey, the same was with me, because since I was a little girl, I always loved camera and I always loved to be in the center of attention. Later on in life, I found out that was a bad thing, okay? When I was little, I didn't think it was a bad thing, but I do have pictures of me when I'm literally posing, and I'm like, what, 11, like that little whatever girl, and I'm posing on camera because I just loved camera. So what I did, I went into modeling, then I went into acting. But
Wow.
besides that, I also realized from a very young age, when I was 13, that we all are different. That came from me being bullied really heavily, and to the extent that at some point I remember I wanted to commit suicide because I didn't feel like, hey, you know what, there's a purpose, a reason to live. And I thought, you know
Yeah.
what, if I don't have a reason, a purpose, then I better die, because nobody loves me. I don't have friends. We have big family is not doing great financially, we're not doing great, we don't have even new clothing, and it was just really hard and difficult, and I thought, I can't handle that. So what I did remember, I was holding my breath thinking I will die. As you can tell, I wasn't successful when I was child, right? Because it's quite difficult actually to hold your breath to die, because your body is definitely stronger than you. And luckily that didn't happen. But what
Well, that's
happened,
good.
I
We're
realized
talking.
that, pardon?
I said we're talking, so that's a good thing. We're able to do this podcast, so you're alive.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we would be able to do this podcast. That's right. But I remember when I was lying in that bed, dark night, and I'm trying to hold my breath, and I'm already can feel, the heartbeat in my head, because I'm trying to hold for too long time, right? And I remember thinking to myself that, but what if I just learned something new? What if I just get to the bottom line why we are so different? Because I don't believe I'm the person what my classmates are telling me I am, right? So there should be something within me that why everybody's picking on me. And I remember I picked a book which literally changed my life. I still keep that book actually. That book is obviously it was in Russian, since I'm Russian speaker. And the book was about, don't speak about yourself in a negative way, basically how to change your life within positive self-talk. And honestly, that book changed my life. I'm so grateful to my sister who brought that book by
Wow.
mistake from the library, because she thought it was just a kid's book, because there was little ginger
Yeah.
donkey on hardcover. It wasn't for kids at all. It was for young adults and adults, I would say.
Yeah.
But since then, I started learning more and more about psychology. I started learning how do we think, why do we think certain ways, why do we have certain behaviors, patterns. And I just, because I had no friends and I was bored a lot, I just was diving into the pool of knowledge. And okay, now we have YouTube, right? And I think millennials, they don't know the pain of going to library, okay?
Yeah.
Standing in a queue with a book and waiting to have it only for a week, and don't you dare to come back later. So I think millennials are really lucky to have just that YouTube on their phones, which you can stare at all day long, right? And I don't know how many books I read, numerous books. And then once I ran out of books in my school library, I went to our city library and I was just reading. I was so hungry. So we just combine these two things together now as me craving for attention and that love and acceptance, right? Loving the camera, as well as learning about psychology and how to behave and why things are the way they are. And then what happened was really ridiculous. People start asking me for help. And the most ridiculous thing was when a lady, being 3 times older than me, had a conversation with me. At the end, she told me, and I was like, what, probably 18 by then. She said, Olga, you're so wise for your age. Thank you so much. You really helped me. And that was just like,
Wow.
that light bulb moment, which made me think,
Wow.
That's interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder what I can do with that skill. But as life happens, I got married, I had a child, I left my modeling career, I left my acting career because it was great, but it wasn't fulfilling me. I didn't feel that special. I didn't feel that there is something unique about that. It was great to be on the stage. It was great to be in front of the audience, but I didn't feel there was something what would, keep my butterflies down there, like that would be flying all the time. I didn't feel that way. So I thought, okay, what do I do next? And only when I got divorced and I came to England, I realized that actually the only skill which I have is talking to people and giving them that direction. And by that time, I also learned the counseling skill and also learned how to coach people through other educational things. And this is the time when actually I started learning English. And then I went to event, which was business event, where actually I learned about coaching. And that was the time when I actually changed my life, because I realized when I will learn English, then I will be able to actually help many more people. And
Wow.
that's it. And then it just started kicking off a little bit. And into speaking, I got by accident because people start asking me if I can do a workshop on this, if I can do a workshop on that. And because I had already so much content from my case study for clients, from my online, from everything what I learned, I just, again, as being people pleaser, as we all are, I couldn't say no. So I was like, sure. And then one day I realized, hey, actually, that could make me more living, doing speaking. That's another way how to make money. And it was just putting all together that with being on a stage, you can reach masses of people whom, yes, you will make cry. Of course you will, because when people go through transformation, as you know, they release their emotions and this when they cry. But the end result is always beautiful, because you see those happy eyes and you see those lives which are, those bodies which are jumping up and down because now their lives were changed. Can we ask for more? We can't. And therefore it was, I guess, a bit different, but at the same time it was quite challenging at some points, but also it just had a happy end, I would say. As I said earlier at the very beginning of our podcast, that you know what, I would never change it for anything else. And I'm very grateful to all those kids who actually were bullying me, because if not them, probably I would never be a speaker. So it just joining dots together.
And you said earlier about your life, giving your life meaning. What gives it meaning now, would you say, from what you've learned?
My meaning in my life right now is, how many more lives can I change?
Yeah.
And I know it might sound very cliche because we are in coaching, but it truly is, because you get that buzz, you get that kick, you see those grateful eyes, and you know you made bigger impact as you could change just your life. Now you change not only this client life, and I'm sure you had the same situation. You're coaching a client comes back to you and says, you know what? I actually shared everything we spoke about during the session with my partner, and now my partner is doing the same thing. And then friend of the partner is doing the same thing. And then friend of your client is doing the same thing. You're not only impacting one person, you are impacting the tribe of that person. And then you coach another person, and same thing happens there. So actually, we are transforming the world. And what can be more beautiful than that? And I'm not saying everybody should have this mission. We all are different. But if you have this passion, if you have the drive and you get the kick out of this, why not to do it?
Yeah. And you're noticing now, like, the world's going through some accelerated change. There's more AI, there's more social media, there's more the trade-off between the economy and following your passions. There's more 21st century stress and all those types of stuff, which means that there's more needs for coaching. So lots of people now are becoming coaches to help with that. And the great thing a coach does is it points out people's blind spots to them, it helps them grow because they can't see them on their own. So they need somebody else, an external feedback loop to replay those elements back to themselves to help them grow and change, right? So that's important now.
I totally agree with you. But you see here, I had this discussion recently with another coach, and it's so interesting. Some people say, oh, you know what? I also want to become a coach. It's a very lucrative business. And for me, it's like, uh-oh. If you go just after money, like with anything else, whether you want to be an artist, a singer, a dancer, it's not the money which should drive you in this industry. It's that feeling of giving back. It's that feeling of real transformation. It's the feeling of having that result achieved rather just money. Because
100%.
otherwise, what people say, oh, I've been to this coach, I've been to that coach, thankful I found you. And that's painful. It's really painful. It annoys me so much, honestly. I think it's ridiculous when people go to do something just after money.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe their life.
No, unless and if those people haven't done the work, as in what I mean by that is that for you to be a great coach and to be able to transform other people, you have to have done the work on yourself. And there's lots of people that want to jump to rung 10 and they jump to rung 10 without getting onto rung 1. You know, you see a lot of coaching qualifications which aren't particularly good qualifications for like £100. You can buy a certificate and then you can go and be a life coach. And though those people, because they've never gone through that level of transformation, which means confronting some of your fears, they'll never be able to get to the depth of coaching with their clients, because all they'll be doing is coaching themselves. Because if you're not taking your clients through that illusion of fear to the transformational space past it, you'll only ever coaching yourself. So and how you do that is by doing the work yourself. So a lot of people want the glory of coaching, but actually sometimes coaching is tough because you've got to hold that space with the client to get them through that thing that's challenging for them. And sometimes that's tough, but I think people they see the glory of coaching and not necessarily the work that it takes to get to that level.
And I so agree with you. And if you would be here next to me, I would give you the biggest hug right now because you said it.
Yeah.
You literally said it. The hardest client you can ever have is yourself. This is the hardest. There are clients which are not coachable, as you know, because they have this, I know it all sign on their forehead. That's one story, right? But the hardest client you can ever have is yourself. You don't see yourself, you don't hear yourself, and you don't dig deep between the lines of what you are saying. So it's a big difference between listening and hearing within the listening. And that's why coaching is so powerful, because when you speak to a client, yes, you listen to what they say, but you also hear to a limiting belief, a story, a potential problem from their childhood. Oh yeah, that could be linked to the relationship. And you build this matrix, right? And by the time client is finished talking, almost like having the counseling session with you, you know exactly where things are coming from. Now you only have to guide them to understand where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
There we go. And if you haven't done it yourself, on yourself, how can you do it to others?
Yeah, because what you will do is you'll experience fear in a coaching session and you think that's yours, but actually what you're doing, because you're in that generative field with the client, you will experience their fear, and you'll make that mean that it's your fear, and you'll back off.
Yeah.
But actually, that's the point, to ask the question that you're avoiding asking the client.
Yes, and that is
because it's not your fear you're feeling; it's their fear. Because if you've built a good, we call it the generative field, or you're in that space, that oneness with the client, then you'll feel that, and at that point, then it's asking the question, to take them through it.
That is so true. But hey, I've got a question for you here. So when you were having your first ever coaching client, do you remember that first ever, and you kind of, sitting there all cool, because obviously you're the coach, right? You can't admit to him that's your first ever client, right? You're sitting there all being cool, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to coach you, whatever. What was your biggest issue then? What did you have to overcome, do, or maybe you understood you're missing something, or maybe something was holding you back from, coaching client to the very high level as you wanted to? Because I'm sure you're obviously having very high standards.
Yeah.
What was your biggest issue? Because I'm sure some of your coaches will be just like, am I alone or no? Maybe Adrian also had this issue. Could you please share your biggest issue when you just started doing your coaching?
Well, if I reflect back, so when I got to my paid clients, I was actually in a great space in terms of I've done the work. But I remember my first corporate, I was a training manager, and remember my first coaching session, and it was so processy. So my biggest challenge that I had was going off script, like going off the process and just flowing, just flowing with the session. And it's almost like now I ask the goal questions, the reality. So it was letting go of grow, because grow is just a simplified version of the real thing. So my biggest challenge was letting go of that model and finding my own way. And now here's the kicker, that the fear really is, or the biggest challenge people face is that soon as you leave grow, then your coaching is at a stage where people can feedback on your performance as a coach. The reality is, when somebody does a grow session, because it's a model, simplified version, it's very basic, people can only feedback on the model, because it doesn't really require performance as a coach. It just requires someone to ask some questions. But then when you find your own style, it's really something just having, I don't have a model now. Don't have models, you just go with it. So that's the biggest challenge, is letting go of the stabilizers, the scaffolding around the house, and just going for your intuition and finding your way, and creating your own way of coaching, or your own methodology, or your own style. Because then you're open to feedback on your performance, which I think sometimes, as a new coach, I see a lot of new coaches concerned about, oh my God, what happens if people don't like it or whatever, but it's getting out your own way.
And I totally agree with you there. Because when I just started coaching coaches, the most common question I was asked, what do you do with the grow model? And people are stuck with that. People have they have the questions, they have the all these places to put the information about the client, like what they say, what they answer, and all the things about what's my next question. They don't connect with the client. They don't feel the client. They don't unite with the client, and even worse, they don't connect with the source. Because realistically, everything is already up there. We just need to channel that. But when you are having this piece of paper in front of you and you're holding on to these questions, unfortunately, the only one thing you can do is just follow the script. But this is not sales process. This is coaching. And I always say, look, when you go to driving license, do you still follow everything what you learned on day one from your driving instructor? Nobody does. If we would go and pass our driving license again now, we would never pass it. Absolutely never. Because do you really look at all three mirrors all the time? No, you don't. Do you always do everything what they taught you? No, you don't. Right? So why would be coach sticking to actually the same model which he learned on session number 1? Because yes, it's good to start with that. You have to get your driving license, you have to know how to drive the car, but then you have your own style.
Yeah.
Understand with coaching, just be brave.
And the model, it's about being brave, letting that model go, because the model's not there for the client. The grow model is there to teach the coach how to coach, the fundamentals of coaching. It's a process to guide, almost like guide the client through. And if I meet someone who's starting to coach, I mean, I've been there, but when you meet somebody who's a new coach and you say, they'll say, well, I'm a coach, all nice and proud, which is cool. And then you say, okay, so what model do you follow? And as soon as they say the grow model, then I know that they've just started coaching, because you start to learn loads of different methodologies and build your own model. And also you respond from what the client needs in that session. So the grow model might not be appropriate. It might be some other technique, or it might be some other tools that you might use rather than just the grow model. So like now I use mBIT, which is basically behavioral modeling, ancient wisdom and neuroscience combined in one methodology. And that's what I use now for transformation. Whereas sometimes you might use NLP, sometimes you might use transformational linguistics, sometimes you might use a bit of hypnosis. So it just depends. But my advice to any new coach is go and learn something you resonate with. Go and learn the transformational or performance-based stuff, and look at all the new current stuff. And learn that as you can. And then once you've learned all that, pick out 2 or 3 things that really resonate with you and master them. Make sure that you can find the 2 or 3 things in those things and literally master them, and then create your coaching around, your personality and the mastering of those. Because when you master those things, when you master them, they don't even become a model, because you've automatically done it in a conversation. So you've simplified it so much that you can just do it, in a session without even the client knowing it. Like, you don't even have to pull out a script and go, hold on a second, I just need to get my sheet out. Right, wait there, ready, right, go. And then you're asking the question. It just becomes natural in a conversation. So the client's almost like, I don't know what happened there, something changed. And then you're like, well, that was, so it's all, you create that magic in the coaching, and that's a good place to be.
Exactly. And I so agree with you. It is about co-creation. When you and the client, you actually create and you bounce off each other, but you actually give the client that space, which yes, you're holding, but the way how you build it is based on so many different techniques. And then some people ask you, but why don't you tell, what techniques you're using during the session? But then what's the point? Like, will it really help if I'll say, okay, now I use NLP, now I use therapy, okay, you just had counseling and things like that? Because for me, it's the end result. And I don't see the reason for ourselves. And I'm sure all coaches, they all have so many other qualifications as part of coaching. First of all, I never talk about everything else I learned in certifications I received, because honestly, it's not about what do I have. It's about what can I achieve with all of that. And that is that transformation. Because it's not about me, it's about the client. But some people, they really wonder, but I think you should mention you do NLP. I think you should mention you do therapy. I'm like, well, no, it's not relevant.
It's not relevant. It's not relevant. And the more you mention those things, like in the stuff that you do, the more it detracts away from you. So like, you notice that I don't mention it in my LinkedIn, because it detracts away from you. The client wants a certain outcome, wants a certain result, and whatever that is you've created that helps them get that, that's the most important thing. So that's my personal opinion anyway.
No, I agree with you. So I can definitely join you that it's not about shouting out who we are. It's about what we can do with that. 100%. It's like, honestly, if you go to a barber, or if you go to a hairdresser, a doctor, do they really tell you about all the certifications they received in their lifetime before they actually see you? No.
No.
They charge you, and by the amount of what they charge, all right, they're
Yeah.
not a good hairdresser, right?
Yeah.
That's it. If they charge you $5, but you think,
Yeah. And also a coach, you know, a coach, as you know this, a coach should be judged based on the results they get. So like, I'm sure you've got lots of great testimonials. I know I've got testimonials of actually clients speaking about the result. So, you know, so if you are a coach out there, get some recommendations from your clients. If you are looking for coaching, make sure that the coach has got some good recommendations from social proof around what they do, because that's obviously important as well. And that'll give you a good flavor of what kind of results they do and how they can help. They can help you.
Absolutely. I so agree with you. Oh, I just couldn't agree any less, because it's just like with anything, you wouldn't go. If you want to have a cleaner in your house, would you really go and just get anybody?
No.
No, because you're worried, what if they will take something? What if? What if? So you worry about your material stuff. And now you're going to go to someone to open up your soul, to open up your past, to open up whatever you want to achieve, or even if you never wanted to achieve anything, now you want to trust someone, that person actually helps you to find your passion, to find your purpose, to find your life direction. Seriously, people don't pay attention to that. That really worries me. You worry more about the cleaner rather than the coach. Wrong. Should be the other way around. Material stuff come and go. You remain you, and you can't replace yourself.
No. And I think, I think, as you said earlier, it's so important for those for new coaches to be able to create that level of trust as well with you know, with their new clients, because that's, you know, your style and who you are without all the kind of the certificates is what's going to get people to work with you amongst everything. I think that's really important.
Exactly. But it's almost like, again, going back to driving license, some people have all possible available categories on their driving license. But do they talk about this all the time? No. Can they drive a lorry? Yes. Can they drive a bus? Yes. Can they drive a car? Yes, they can. That's it. Bottom line, I can drive. But it's not about shouting out about that. They just can drive it. And if they need to drive a lorry, they will just go and drive it. They're not going to pick another piece of paper to go drive a lorry. They will be able to do it just like that because they know how. And the same with all these certifications and all these additional courses. I am a big fan of learning, because for me, I think personally, the more I learn, the more I can allow my client to grow with me. Because if I stop learning, that means that's it. I can't grow my client any more than that. And especially if you go from coaching individuals to coaching big organizations and you know, leaders, you've got to learn all the time, because it's two different levels. I'm sorry, they have different issues, they have different problems, they have different amount of stress. You've got to educate yourself all the time. So how many certificates then can you put out there?
Yeah,
plenty, but what's the point? It's about the end result.
And the interesting thing you said earlier, Olga, you said around, you know, you ask your son, what did you learn today? And the big thing in corporations is they want to create this learning culture, which is actually a bit of a paradox, really, because they don't need to create a learning culture in big organizations, because they're learning every second. And a more appropriate question for organizations to be asking every day, every week, you know, team, what did you learn today? Because there's actually a lot more they are learning. So when they say, oh, we've got to create these learning cultures, well, guess what? You already have a learning culture. You've got to elicit, okay, how, you know, what are you learning? How are you learning? How are you doing that? And then once they've got the recipe for that, then do social learning with each other to teach each other how they're learning those certain things. And then they'll have a learning culture. So it's a lot more simpler than sometimes they think.
I love that. You see, I've got a journal. I'm not sure if you do journaling, but this is the way how I self-coach myself on a daily basis. Yeah. And there are 16 questions in this journal. And over time, of course, I change them because you get sick of the same question, to be honest. So the latest two questions which I added then was, what limiting belief did I find today? And somebody, when I shared that question with somebody, They said, yeah, but that means, Olga, you're focusing on negative. I said, well, no, I'm focusing on something that I want to improve. And they said, yeah, but you're the coach. You should have no limiting beliefs.
Wow.
I said, that's great. Sounds cool. But it's like, if I'm a heart surgeon, doesn't mean I have a guarantee I'll never have a stroke. It doesn't. Right? If I'm brain
There's no
surgeon, doesn't
guarantee.
mean I'll never have brain tumor. Nope. Okay. It's about, as you grow, you develop new beliefs. As you develop, you learn more, but also you somewhere limit yourself. And therefore, why ask it every day? Because every time I coach somebody, obviously we balance with each other. Every time I go for a course, every time I do something, I question myself. And through these questions, there's always something coming out. Even when I listen to audiobook, because when I drive, I usually either listen to a radio or listen to audiobook. And then I usually come up with like, oh my God, I never thought about this. Okay, that will go into my probably either limiting belief, or second question out of 16 is, what did I learn today?
Yeah.
And it is amazing. Going back to what you said, they are learning every day in the organization. It is absolutely amazing and marvelous how many things you actually learn on daily basis without realizing you do. It is crazy.
Mm. And then getting in touch with that, or getting people to get in touch with that's important as well, and passing that knowledge on to others. It's always interesting around limiting beliefs, and it's a word that we use a lot. But actually, like, the funny thing is, I use it as well. Limiting beliefs, but a limiting belief is a limiting belief. So it's the same thing, which I always find quite interesting. So actually, a limiting belief is a limiting belief, which is quite funny.
I know what you mean. Yes.
When you think about it, yeah.
That's why I prefer to use a term story, because when you have a story, it's less damaging to your ear, but at the same time, you almost need to explain what it is. And therefore,
an old story.
Yeah, self-explanatory. But then usually later on within coaching, I use with clients, oh, do you remember your story? I don't go back to, do you remember your limiting belief? I go to, actually, do you remember your story? Because then train them that it's not the limiting belief, just what you said, because it sounds very limiting. And with my clients, and I'm sure you do the same thing, and I think that's the best profession we have, actually. We are allowed to be very picky with what people say. How cool is that?
I think it's really, I think it's awesome. We're also allowed to help people recreate the story that's more useful. So like you said, around that story, we actually get to be picky with what people say, but also help them recreate that story, which I think is really cool. Because a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves either, limit us or empower us. And the words that we use describe our experience. So we get to kind of choose a more useful story rather than one that doesn't empower us anymore.
Beautiful. Cool. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, I've got another question for you in regards to your coaching thing. Because, usually what I do, I'm always curious, just like you said earlier, to ask people what would they do if they wouldn't do what they do now. And to be honest, I never heard any other answer apart of nothing else. I would do exactly what I do now. Yeah. So I'm not going to ask you this question because I know the answer. You will do the same thing. But I will rephrase it slightly. If you could change anything about where you are now within your coaching career, about with what people you work, or with what direction you go, or when you started, or how much you learned by now, is there anything, and I think this will be really helpful for coaches, is there anything you actually would like to change? Or, okay, not would like to, but if you would have the opportunity, you actually would change?
So which direction would I go in?
For example, yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. And I think it would be like leading some type of movement, like to raise a level of awareness or consciousness on the planet to what you see at the moment. It's where I'm going, but I want to go more in that direction. What you're seeing at the moment is people deeply unfulfilled and deeply unhappy because they've got to a level of success in life that wasn't theirs in the first place. And now they realize that they've been cheated because they've gone to this illusion of happiness, which wasn't theirs, and they feel deeply unfulfilled. So it would be really creating some level of mission, which helps inspire people to not rebel against society, but that type of thing, to really follow their purpose, really follow their passion. That would be something that's the path that I'd like to go in, and that would have lots of elements of the spiritual in there, transformational coaching, and also simple practical tools and techniques to help people thrive. That's what it would be.
I love that. I love that. Well, the thing is, there's always time.
There is always time.
Things like that. and I'm sure whenever you want to go in the other direction, you will simply go. And I guess the life is just a journey. And every profession, whatever you do, is still a journey, and you go from one way to another, one side to another. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But can I ask you
I think so.
one little thing? If you would be able to share three things which you got out of your life, out of maybe your army days, maybe your coaching, maybe even from your clients, what would you say three things what our listeners actually can just write down and put on their, car dashboard, on their desk, on their mirror, and just stick to that, almost like their mantra? What would you tell them? Share your wisdom, please.
I'll give you three tips. I'll give you three tips. So tip number one is create your well-being, vitality, and self-care rituals in your diary first, and then make sure that you move everything around it, because you cannot serve the world if you're burnt out, if you have lack of energy, if you're not looking after your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. So yes, everyone is busy, and that's the biggest problem. The most important, it's better to be effective, fulfilled, and full of vitality than busy and burnt out. So the most important thing is to look at like 2 or 3 things every week that you do, which is important for your self-care. And you put that in your diary, and everything moves around that, not that around your diary, not that around your appointments. So for instance, you would put all your gym routines in for the week. You would put in your meditation, your self-care, your time off, your time to disconnect. And then in goes the meetings around that. And that drives the fulfillment, vitality, motivation, energy levels. The second thing is to practice meditation, and get to a place where you're practicing meditation on a regular basis, which could mean fostering a great morning routine. So a good thing to do is foster a great morning routine, whether that's meditation, learning, and connecting, whatever that might be. However, you have 3 elements of your morning routine, and ensure that morning routine is consistent. So mine is meditation, reading or learning, and then straight away connecting with somebody, social connecting, and having a coffee, whatever that might be. Those are the 3 most important things. And something else is important is balanced breathing, because we live in a world where we're either in sympathetic dominant, which means stress, or parasympathetic dominant, where we're kind of very low mood. And based on the stuff that I teach called mBIT or mBraining, there's something there called balanced breathing, which is 5 minutes of balanced breathing, which is an equal in-breath to an equal out-breath, whether that's 6 in, 6 out, 3 in, 3 out, whatever that might be. And once you do about 3 to 5 minutes of balanced breathing, that creates a calm alert state, calm alert and coherent. So you're in a balance point. And then that lasts for 4 hours in total. So once you do that, that energy, that state that you create lasts for 4 hours, and that allows you to make better, wiser, more intelligent decisions at work and in your life. So those are the most important simplified tips And if you can do that, so the first one is rituals. Make sure you've got all your rituals for health, well-being, and self-care already pre-planned in the diary. Everything moves, around that. Great morning routine, 2 or 3 things within the first hour, and then the balanced breathing to make sure you create that energy levels, and that allows you then to be resilient and keep on moving forward and keep those energy levels good.
I love those 3 things. I absolutely love them, and I so agree. It sounds like I'm agreeing with you with everything, but I seriously agree because it might sound a bit selfish to some people. Put yourself first. But even on the plane, they tell you, put the mask on your face first before you serve somebody else. And you are 100, 200, 300% right when you say you got to treat your routine like a prey. It has to be there. And then you work around it. Because unless you're working in an emergency or in a fire brigade, what else can be more urgent than yourself?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you don't serve yourself, you can't serve others. I love those. I really love those. Thank you so much. And you know what the most amazing thing about these 3 tips? They are so simple.
Yeah.
Simple. Just do it. I cannot see any reason why somebody would not do them. Absolutely no reason why not to do it.
Yeah, and then you'll best serve your clients. You're in a good place. And then when you come from that space, even if you did those things and you weren't the best coach in the world and you're still learning the GROW model, you're going to be in a good energy level. You're going to be enthusiastic. You're going to be grounded. You're going to come from a great space when you're coaching clients. And though if you don't do those things and come from the GROW model, you're going to be anxious, when you're first starting to coaching. So those, as you said earlier, put your mask on first. Get your house in order before you then start going out to kind of, to help other people. So that allows you to come from a space of being grounded.
Love it. Thank you, Adrian. Oh, you know what? I really enjoyed this conversation.
Same.
I could talk for hours and hours. We will tie our listeners completely. So unfortunately, we will have to wrap up, but I really don't want to. I think what we should do is just probably do another session, but I think would be interested to do it on rituals and routine.
Yeah,
what else?
100%. And also the art of coaching, as in like the art of coaching mastery. What is that in the middle of coaching mastery? Rituals, coaching mastery. What is in the middle of all that? How does someone get to that level? And how does someone get to coaching mastery?
Oh, that would be amazing. You're right.
Tools, techniques, and stuff, and the fundamentals around that. What do people need to go and practice? How do they do that? Which is, I think, is really important.
Absolutely. Right. That means 2 more sessions. How cool is that? I love it.
So rituals and coaching mastery done.
Exactly. That's it. So 2 more sessions. Let's book them. Let's definitely book them. But Adrian, thank you so much. I'm so
Thanks very much, Olga, for having me as well.
And even though we couldn't be next to each other because obviously you live all the way down south and I live all the way down north, but hey, thanks to technologies, we could make it happen. And I just give my fingers crossed the Wi-Fi connection was good. So obviously we recorded it really good. So actually that could be really useful for our listeners. And
definitely.
Once more, thanking you. And thank you very much. Pardon?
Thank you very much as well.
Oh, it's a pleasure. But let's also thank our listeners because they will spend a valuable time listening to us. And I really would love to thank them. So thank you all for listening to us. And stay with us because we're going to do 2 more sessions.
Stay tuned.
Yes.